Hi, how are you? I'm Chief Dean Rondo with the Wolfeboro Police Department, and to my left is my Executive Officer, Captain Mark Livy, and welcome back to another session of Coffee and Connections with the Chief. And so we're in the month of October. Holy smokes, it just seems like yesterday we were in the middle of the summer. Where did it go? And I still remember last year's winter, which was brutal, and it looks like there's going to be another cold, brutal winter in front of us. So I'm just saying that for what it is, folks. So get ready, be prepared. And as you know, I'm all about public safety. If you follow me on Facebook or if you're one of my friends on Facebook, you know I'm all about the weather. I'm all about preparedness. So, here's your warning. It's going to be a long, cold, hard winter. Start preparing now. So the month of October is kind of a bittersweet month. The leaves are changing. It's a beautiful time up here in the Lakes region. It's a beautiful time here in Wolfeboro always. But fall is my favorite. It's my favorite season, my favorite time of year. But there are a lot of changes. The kids are now back to school full swing. They went back in early September, 3 September. And now they're back in full swing, and there's a lot of activities in the fall. Now we pick up football, high school football. So we're following our Kingswood Lancers and the Kingswood Knights in their football games. So that's really exciting. So we're happy to see that, happy to have that back. You're going to see, of course, the fiscal year 2020 federal grants will be starting. All right, we've been awarded again, as we normally are. We've been awarded grants from the federal government to enforce things like speed and DWI interdiction and so forth and so on. So you'll see the officers out there doing those grants. They'll be picking back up again. Kids are going back to school. You know, they're trying to get those last few bike rides in. The motorcyclists will be out trying to get their last few runs in before the snow starts to fly. So please, as always, be mindful about that. We're not really slowing down much in the police department. This has been this dynamic for about the last 10 years or so. It's just a different kind of busy for us in the Wolfeboro Police Department. And it's just very interesting, and it's I think a sign of the times and how things are changing up here, how the dynamic is changing. If you've been paying attention to the traffic patterns and the congestion here in Wolfeboro, it's been steady this year. In fact, it's been the worst I've ever seen. In 23 years of law enforcement, we've had a very, very busy summer with visitors and guests and traffic and so forth, and there really are no signs of it letting up. And that's just interesting, and I put that out there for what it's worth. So this is not the same Wolfeboro it was 15 years ago. We have a lot of folks in the area. We have a lot of folks going to and from their private residences to their activities and destinations. There's just a lot of traffic on the road, and it's pretty standard, and it's fairly active, so you need to keep an eye on that. For some safety tips, as we get closer and closer to the end of the month, and Halloween is a Thursday this year. Of course, Halloween is always practiced here in Wolfeboro on the 31st, so All Hallows Eve. The kids will be out. They'll be trick-or-treating. Trick-or-treating is going to be 5 to 7, so again, 5 to 7 p.m. So for all you military folks out there, it's going to be 1,700 to 1,900 hours on the 31st of October, as Halloween is always practiced here in Wolfeboro. So again, 5 to 7 p.m. Be mindful of the children out there. They have masks on, they have costumes on, their vision is probably going to be somewhat limited. This year, Halloween again is falling on a Thursday, which means that there'll be a lot of Halloween activities over the weekends. So please be mindful of that. Probably Thursday through Saturday night, there'll be a lot of Halloween activities as we get into the first part of November. So just keep your eyes open and be aware of the children going to and from the trick-or-treating activities and folks dressed up going to and from their Halloween activities. And it's always a fun time here in Wolfeboro. So if you're watching this and you're in destinations other than Wolfeboro, come on up here for a wonderful Halloween. There's always lots of activities going on. With that being said, the leaves are changing, and we're going to get some warm and cold weather spells So the first thing I want to let you know is leaves on the roadway when they get wet, and then we have a frost. The roads are very slippery, right? That coefficient of friction, if you're a traffic crash investigator like I am, a technical crash reconstructionist, the coefficient of friction of the roadway is going to become less and less and less, which means that you don't have the same stopping ability that you do on nice dry pavement, all right? And that just goes without saying. So please be mindful of that, all right? Drive a little bit slower. It's going to happen. It happens every year. The other thing, if you're on the lakes, you still got a couple of good, solid months left of boating. All right, maybe not a couple of months, but maybe a good 6 weeks or so. But remember, the water is cold. If you're out there fishing or if you're out there doing boating activities, the water is very cold. The temperature's dropping every night, so please be mindful of that, and please pay attention to the signs of hypothermia. Additionally, this is the time of year, sometime around the middle of October or so, the state will drop the level of the lake if you need to get out and make repairs to your shoreline property or your docks. This is the time to do it. Also, for you boaters out there that want to get in the last few weeks of summer into early November, remember that the lake level is going to drop probably by 2 to 4 feet when they let the water out of the dam. So be careful of that. The hazards in the lake are going to be higher than they were. The water is going to be much shallower, so the hazards will be there. So if you're used to going through, say, for example, the witches or the graveyard, and you knew what the clearance was between you and the rocks, remember that clearance isn't going to be there anymore because the lake is going to be down 2 to 4 feet. So if you're like me and you like to go through the graveyard because that's a shortcut to the hole in the wall, for example, just be mindful that those hazards are going to be now much more significant than they were because you're just not going to have the water level. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my captain, who's going to brief you up on the operational activities of the police department, and turn it over to Captain Mark Livy. Captain?
All right, thanks, Chief. So, a few things going on. Dispatch, not too many changes in there. Everything's moving smooth. All of the part-timers are in there, moving good. Training's all done. So everything's moving good in dispatch. So no issues, no worries in there. On the police side right now, Officer Church is 4 weeks done with the academy. So only 12.
Another 8 weeks to go.
Actually, 12 weeks to go.
12 weeks to go. Oh my God, that's
yeah, so he's getting there. So yeah, his end date is December 20th. So he's moving along, doing well. It's a Monday through Friday. He's down at the academy. He stays there overnight and comes home on the weekends.
Well, his life is pretty miserable right now.
Yeah. So the next thing is Officer Chris Dustin. As we mentioned before, he was going to the academy with Officer Church, but he had to make a tough decision. He decided to move back to part-time, so which makes opening for our police department. So we have applications that went out. Actually, on our Facebook page, we put out a job opening, and we're getting applications as we speak. And the deadline for that is October 1st, which will be after this. But the PT physical agility test will be October 5th. And then following that week on the 10th, we will have an oral board. So we're moving this along pretty quickly because we want to get a background done and the process to get him the paperwork or her for the next academy, which is January 2nd or 3rd. It starts up. Yeah, starts up. So right now, as I know, we have 5 applicants for that position, but the more the merrier, and that's what we're hoping for. So other than that, you'll see the patrols out there. Traffic is a little bit less, except for the weekends. People are still coming up to their homes up here because it's still nice weather until you hit probably, well, if you like the snow, it's nice weather all year long. So, but other than that, I got nothing except for the grants that will be starting October 1st for their fiscal year 2020 grants. The state, as the chief has mentioned before, so you'll see us out there for, I believe it's just speed and step this year, and click it and ticket. So that's pretty much going on what's new in the operations side.
Thank you very much, Captain. So that's a pretty good synopsis of what we're doing right now. We did have a lot of major investigations that are still continuing from the summer. I had a lot of major felonies that we're tying up with the county attorney's office. Typically, it's business as usual, as it typically is with the Wolfeboro Police Department. We're just moving right along, but we are very busy. I do want to talk a little bit about the fiscal year 2020 budget that the police department is involved in right now. So we just finished our preliminary budget construction, if you will. And we do a little bit of a different process at the Wolfeboro Police Department. The way that works, and I just want to talk about that for a little bit. We actually start the budget, our budget, we start looking at it in mid-July. And we put it together. It was a lot of hard work between myself, the captain, and our able-bodied administrative executive assistant, Sherry Moore, who does a lot of the numbers crunching. And we look at different options and contracting options and leases and so forth and so on to see what the best prices are. So it really is quite a lot of research that goes into this. I just want to let everybody know there's a lot of data and research that goes into our budget preparation. Police department budget is total between dispatch, the police department proper, and animal control is about $3.2 million total in and out of that neighborhood, and it's been about that for the last 4 or 5 years. We've been keeping a really good job, doing a really good job at keeping that the norm. We know that sounds like a lot of money. And indeed, it is a lot of money, and it's taxpayer money, and we totally understand that. So we're always looking to get the biggest bang for our buck. So our preliminary budget has been finished, and what we do is once we construct the budget, we have a little mini budget team that consists of again the captain, myself, and our executive assistant Sherry Moore, and a selectman representative, and 2 budget committee members, and a police commissioner, and we sit around a big table. And we look at the budget, and as Selectman O'Brien likes to say, we torture the numbers. We thrash those numbers about. We talk about schemes and schedules and strategies, and we look at seeing can we postpone purchases? Can we use different grant funding strategies, what are the best purchasing options for pieces of equipment that we have to buy or we have to replace, and so forth and so on. So these numbers really do get thrashed about, and there's an awful lot of work that goes into this. So the first plug I want to put out, obviously, is to the Board of Selectmen, the Police Commission, and the Budget Committee, because there's a lot of dedicated men and women that serve on those various committees, and they really take their political charge very seriously, and they really do have the best interest of the taxpayers at mind. And I really want folks to know that I've been involved in this process now for the better part of 14 years, and every year it's a lot of really good, frank, honest, hard discussions, looking at hard issues and so forth. And but once we put that construction process together and we go through that, we really end up with a product that is about I'm going to call it a 90% solution. And that is the product that I will take before the Wolfeboro Police Commission, and that is going to happen on the 26th of September. Again, 26th September. It's going to be at the Great Hall starting, and that's a Thursday, starting at 4 p.m. I'm going to brief the budget, the police department budget, all 3 budgets, to the police commissioners. And this is their opportunity to really take a close, hard look at the budget before it gets finalized and sent on to the Board of Selectmen for their final review. I think this is a good budget. This is a really good product. The system we use, I think, is unique to the town of Wolfeboro. We're the only department doing it this way. And what do we have, Captain? Relatively minor amount of money. Very, very small, right? Approximately $8,000 or so?
Yeah, in that ballpark of 8,000, just over. And that's excluding, we got to order a cruiser every year, so that's an every year product purchase. But with just the necessary stuff that is a need, it's just over $8,000.
Yeah, so let me explain that. So someone's going to say, "Whoa, I thought I read in the paper that it was a 0%, discretionary growth. That's true. Very true, and we really tried to keep hard to that town manager guidance, and that's very good guidance. There's nothing wrong with that guidance. Unfortunately, the issue is things change, right? Sometimes things change beyond my control. So, for example, you're going to say, like what? Like what, Chief? Well, I'm going to tell you. One of the things that changed, of course, is the reimbursement, the federal reimbursements for travel have changed. The cost of that has gone up, right? So that has to be budgeted for. Things like Social Security increase, workers' comp increases. The cost of doing business increases, repair parts, the cost of tires, things like that. Those things increase. So we have to budget for those increases, because if we don't, we'll just be underfunded. And we don't want to be underfunded, right? So there are some things, if you will, beyond our control that unfortunately fall into discretionary spending that we have to budget for, right? And those represent that $8,000 increases, okay? So, for example, another increase, right? I have to have ammunition to train, right? And you're going to say, well, why do you have to do that? Well, because as police officers, we have a license. Our license is held by the New Hampshire Police Academy, right? Police Standards and Training Council. Part of that licensing requires the officers to go to training, right? We have to have a certain number of hours of training. We have to do certain things in there, and one of those things is annual and semi-annual practice and qualification. It's just a requirement. We have to do that. And it also lowers liability, right? That really does lower liability. So the cost of ammunition has increased, okay? So with those costs in ammunition, I know how many rounds approximately we're going to shoot in a year for qualification and training. I have to plan for that, okay? So when those costs increase, unfortunately, that represents an increase in that line item. There's just no way around it. So yes, it is a discretionary, yes. Do I have to budget for it? Yes. So that $8,000 is representative of a number of different areas within the budget where things have increased. And that's just, unfortunately, I hate to say it like this because it's going to sound like I'm coming across cavalier, and I'm really not. But it is the cost of doing business, and that's unfortunate. But remember, this helps to, the harder you train, it reduces our liability, okay? And that's important to remember. That's important to keep in the back of your mind, right? We're always trying to provide a safe and secure environment, right? Crime prevention, physical security, safe and secure environment. Those are our core tasks, or those some of our core tasks, all right? And we're really serious about that. So we train very hard, and we're doing the very best job we can to provide a safe and secure environment. So unfortunately, these are needed expenses. Beyond that, that's really all I have to report. Once the budget is approved by the Police Commission, after any changes that they make, it'll then be scheduled to go before the town manager, and then ultimately before the Board of Selectmen for their review. Now, more changes will ultimately be made during those meetings. That's fine. That's all part of the normal process. More frank and honest discussion, more strategizing, and then it goes to the budget committee for the same, and then it'll finally end up on the ballot in sometime in March. Of course, and then at a town meeting, I'll present the budget. So again, if you want to come and see the process and work and see democracy in action, as our moderator, our esteemed moderator, Randy Walker, often says, then I encourage you to do that, because this is exactly democracy in action. So having said that, right now, I'm very comfortable with the budget. I'm very confident that the budget is a very, very good, honest, no-frills budget for the police department. And we're very excited, as I always am, about the budget and about doing the best I possibly can by the citizens of Wolfeboro. Captain, anything you want to add? All right, so for Captain Mark Livy and myself, Chief Dean Rondeau, I want to thank you very much for joining us at Coffee and Connections. Please, if you want to be my guest, Coffee and Connections, please call Tim down at Wolfeboro Community TV, or call the captain and I, and just schedule a time. As always, coffee's on me. Come on down. We'll talk about anything you want. We can talk about football. We can talk about Red Sox. We can talk about First Amendment issues or Fourth Amendment issues, anything that you want to talk about, and we'll have a discussion. But let's get it out on the air, and because I'm sure if you have questions, your fellow citizens have the same questions. So again, thank you very much. This is Dean Rondo, and please join us again for Coffee and Connections. Have a great October. Bye-bye. Hi, how are you? I'm Chief Dean Rondo with the Wolfeboro Police Department, and welcome back to Coffee and Connections with the Chief. And as always, I'm here with your safety tip of the month. And for the month of October, I got a couple of safety tips. The first is for those avid boaters. I know we're trying to, and I'm one of them, we're trying to eke out those last remaining 6 weeks or so of what's left of the summer. Though we're in the fall, we're trying to get out on our boats. So just be careful. The water's cold. The lake is most likely been drawn down, not just simply because of the normal evaporation that occurs during the summer, but because they let the water out of the dam so folks can repair their shorefront properties and their docks. Just be mindful. There's a lot of hazards in the lake. The water's not as high, so if you were used to going through areas that are very rocky, a lot of bones in them, like the witches or like the graveyards. Remember, those hazards are now going to be closer to the surface of the water, so just be really careful when you do that. And keep your eye on the water temperature. The water's awfully cold, so make sure you understand the signs and symptoms of hypothermia. Second is actually kind of twofold. So we're getting into the fall. We're going to have freeze-thaw cycles like we always do during the fall. So what does that mean? That means that we're going to experience all four seasons in one day, right? It's going to be frost in the morning. You might even get a snow squall. There's going to be wet leaves on the roadway. It's going to get up to 70 or 80, and then the temperature's going to drop back down again. So what does this mean for the roads? Well, it means that the roads are going to get slippery. The coefficient of friction value of the road in the morning and then late in the afternoon, especially with wet leaves, is going to become less and less and less. As the water sets in, the leaves are awfully slippery, and then the water melts, the ice melts and turns to water, or the frost melts and turns to a residue on the roadway surface. So just be careful of that. Just be mindful, especially with wet leaves that are fallen from the trees. It creates a lot of slippery conditions. And the other thing is children going about their Halloween activities. Halloween this year is on a Thursday, 31 October. There's going to be a lot of Halloween activities that go through the weekend. A lot of people in costumes wearing masks. Their field of vision is going to be limited. So just be mindful of that. Keep your eyes on the road. You may be tempted to look at a Halloween parade or look at people going to and from their activities. Keep your eyes on the road. It's going to be dark. You don't want to have a traffic crash or fatality out there. So be mindful of what you're doing. Keep your eye on the road. Remember, kids are going to be going about their Halloween activities. And this year in Wolfeboro, Halloween is going to be on the 31st, as it always is. It's always celebrated on the 31st. And the hours are going to be between 5 and 7. 5 and 7 p.m. For all you military types out there, that's 1700 to 1900 hours. So be safe, folks. And as always, I am Chief Dean Rondo with Coffee and Connections with the Chief. Thank you very much. And this has been your safety tip for the month of October. Have a great October and happy Halloween. Thank you.